Here's another video, folks, of Iranian president dead. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi dead in a helicopter. This is another news. This is a news clip from Channel 4 News. A couple hours ago. It's early in the day. So see what they say, folks.
Minister survey a newly opened hydroelectric dam yesterday on the Iran-Azerbaijani border. Perfunctory photo op, which hours later turns to tragedy. This morning, a worker with Iran's Red Crescent explains that a drone has picked out what's left of the 40-year-old Bell 212 helicopter scattered across the forest floor.
Wow, total demolished, folks.
8 people were on board. Raisi, the foreign minister, Amir Abdullahian, and 5 others, including the crew. There were 3 helicopters in the convoy. 2 had returned. Raisi's copter had crashed in the mountains covered by fog. A Turkish news vlogger, one of the first on the scene. Video footage shows Red Crescent staff carrying a covered body on a stretcher through the forest. A reporter from Iranian state TV concludes his own investigation into the cause of the crash.
Because the helicopter crashed because of fog and rain. Here it is, folks. This is the reason why. This is the reason why the plane went down.
In a country braced for crisis, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's first message yesterday was, "Don't panic. There will be no disruption to the functioning of the state." Broadcast reaction to Raisi's death was mixed, to put it mildly. Fell into 2 categories. At one end of the emotional extreme, regime supporters mourning his death featured heavily on Iranian television today.
Last night, we kept checking the news until dawn. All of us were devastated.
Wow.
On the other end, celebratory videos like this went viral. Mercedes Shahinkar, here in white, lost an eye during the regime's crackdown on protests 2 years ago, now living in exile in Germany.
Wow.
Mansour Bekish lost 6.
So a lot of people hate this guy, folks. But it's not cut and clear like everybody, like some people in mainstream media. And even I watched TYT, they were saying that he's much hated. He still have quite a few supporters, though. I mean, you seen that woman with the full covering. A lot of women there, people like they're Orthodox Muslims. But there's a lot who don't support him also. So, I mean, he did some terrible things, I guess, right?
Members of her family during the political purge of the late 80s in Iran. Raisi sat on the so-called death committee of 4 at the time, responsible for the execution of thousands of people over 5 months.
Wow, that's true, folks. I gotta look into that. That's probably so. That's why they call it. Some call him the butcher. They call this guy the butcher. Call him a butcher. So maybe if he did that, you see, when they think the Islamic State came into Iran, took over, he was like did he purge the people, like the people against them, like the enemies of the state. I mean, and they killed. He was responsible for deaths of thousands. I don't know how many. Actually, I should look into that. But a lot of people. So Wow.
In Iran, power is concentrated around the supreme leader on one hand and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard on the other. Raisi had good relations with both. Very much the yes man to Khamenei, but also a possible successor to the 85-year-old. Seen by many within the regime as a solid inheritor of the hardline leadership. For others, though, there was blood on this safe pair of hands.
Raisi was de facto appointed as president by Khamenei, and since then, he was spearheading Khamenei's plan to forcefully achieve his so-called ideal Islamic society, which has really meant ruthless bloodshed on the Iranian streets.
Today, Vice President Mohammad Mukhtar stepped up. Presidential elections will have to take place within 50 days. The big question now, though, is who will ultimately succeed Khamenei as supreme leader. Raisi was a contender, but
I think the people, if this guy's a bad guy, somehow the people have to overthrow themselves. Shouldn't be any the US or any other power shouldn't do that. Go into another war with Iran. That's what they want. It should be somehow the people. This guy's really a bad guy. Somehow they could overthrow, or even by the elections, but the elections are kind of rigged in a way. But somehow these guys they could overthrow him. The people could arise and overthrow the government. But do it themselves, not by any powers, outside powers. Could do in that time, because that's how they got in anyways, because of the US. They put in a bad, US put in the Shah of Iran, back in the 50s. Put in the Shah of Iran. Terrible Shah. And he's a terrible, and that brought in the people rise up. They took over from the Shah, but the extremists took over. Extremist elements. So they put in a bad government, and this is what happened. You have an extreme Muslim, you have an Islamic state, a theocratic Islamic state, a religious state came in and took over and it suppresses freedoms. That's what it's all about. It should be freedom. But that's what happened. That's what happened to Iran.
he was not the only one.
There were two frontrunners for the Supreme Leader's succession, Raisi and Khamenei's son, Mujtaba Khamenei, who effectively runs the office of the Supreme Leader, which controls all power in the Islamic Republic. With Raisi's death, the path is clear, really, for Mujtaba to assume, or at least become the frontrunner, the sole frontrunner for the Supreme Leader's succession.
Supporters prepare for Raisi's memorial ceremony tomorrow. But there's a restive swathe of the population here, questioning the regime's legitimacy. And now, with direct involvement in the war in Gaza, this crash site represents more of what the leadership fears the most: uncertainty.
Well, I'm joined now by Professor Mohammad Marandi, a professor at the University of Tehran, who was previously an advisor to Iran's nuclear negotiations team and knew the president. We saw those images of the president's supporters mourning his death. Are people not angry that this accident, if that's what it was, could happen?
Wait a minute. First of all, your whole introduction was slanderous. It was abusive. It was aggressive. It's regime. Channel 4 News has really declined.
But
you have really declined. First of all, who said that he was a candidate for the leader and that the leader's son, he's in charge of his office. He's not in charge of the office. He doesn't have any major role to play in the leader's office. He's not a candidate for the leadership. Years from now, hopefully in the distant future, when we do have...
So he's calling out the propaganda of some of the media. Oh, that's great, folks.
a new leader, you're going
This is the propaganda of the West. That's what he's calling out. So that's what the West does.
Get all the nonsense that you put out on Channel 4 News.
Well, why wasn't he a candidate?
He is, and why should he be a candidate? This is just stuff that you people make up out there in the West.
No, I'm saying, why wasn't
Yeah.
he considered as a candidate?
He isn't
for the
considered
Supreme
a
Leader,
candidate.
given
He
he was
isn't
in
a
tune with
candidate.
him.
If the leader's son was a candidate, he would be on
No, I'm talking
television.
about the president. When you say very
Yeah,
surely that the president
he
wasn't
never-
a candidate, what
Why
makes you say that?
You're the one who has to prove that he was a candidate, not me. I don't have to prove that he wasn't. You're the one who are making these ridiculous claims. Your program and saying how they're a purge in the 1980s, the thousand. Are you talking about the MEK? You exaggerate the numbers, but the people that were executed were people who fought as foot soldiers for Saddam Hussein against their own country. They were based in your country. They have offices in your country. They murdered not only our president and our prime minister and the head of the judiciary. They murdered 17,000
Oh my God.
people. And
This is alive. This is on TV, folks. He corrected this guy. See, I believe that. See, there's something fishy what he said. He was saying that thousands of people and they purged, but it wasn't like, see, this guy is correcting him. He's saying that it wasn't like that. It was bullshit. They just made up the number. And these people, like Saddam was saying, because back then they were against, they were kind of like a war with Saddam, with Iraq. I mean, so he's correcting them. So the truth is not like, so these guys, see, he's correcting, these guys are Channel 4 News, like Western propaganda. So that's what they do. So he's correcting them, and that's good.
Fought as foot soldiers in Iraq against them. They were traitors to this country. You think there's sympathy for those people and you call that a purge? They were murdering people on our streets. I was going to school at 8 a.m. one morning when suddenly there was an explosion, all our windows shattered.
Yeah.
9 or 11 people were murdered.
No, I've heard you tell the story.
That's a purge?
Well, I mean, a purge is what some people call it. I appreciate that you don't. Let's talk about the future. Because the question, there were lots of questions over this accident and the way it ended up being confirmed as a death. I mean, first of all, are you sure it was an accident? Are you sure there was no outside or inside involvement?
No, I'm not for sure. There has to be an investigation. The helicopter was, as far as I know, an old helicopter, and of course, the Americans and Western regimes that have imposed sanctions on Iran also prevent Iran from purchasing spare parts for airplanes and helicopters.
Are you sure that there would be no internal rivals, who would...
No, of course.
I don't know about that, folks.
No, this is not a Hollywood movie.
I don't know about that. Is that really true? See, TYT was saying that. They're saying that too. And they're quoting. They're saying that it was all. It's fake or it's not true. But I don't know. Is that really true? Maybe that's true, folks. I don't know. But to say that's the cause of it, yeah, he's right. There has to be an investigation. But most likely it's the weather and the fog. It's not a good idea to fly in bad weather.
I find it highly unlikely that there was foul play, and if there was, it would definitely be external. But I don't see that as the case. The fog was very heavy. The president tours the country very often. He goes to impoverished villages and small towns regularly because he's trying to expand the social welfare network. And so he's often on helicopters traveling around the country.
It's quite a basic rule in many countries that, the president and the secretary of state or the foreign minister don't travel together. Are people not annoyed that these two very senior people were traveling together and have both been killed? It's quite a blow, isn't it?
It is a blow, without a doubt, but the president and the foreign minister were at a ceremony on the border with the Republic of Azerbaijan where they inaugurated a new dam that was built by the Iranians. And of course, all of this was done despite sanctions. And he was traveling
Yeah,
to the city
great
of
point.
Tabriz
That's a
to
great point, folks.
inaugurate further projects. And the foreign minister was with him, and so he was traveling back with him to have a discussion.
Yeah, there you go, folks. I'm not gonna go any further. Just talking about they were together. They went to they're going to a ceremony for the new dam they're gonna open, and this accident happened. It's interesting, folks. This guy calls out. I never saw this, folks. This is the first time I'm watching this. This guy calls out the propaganda. That's great of the West. Apparently, these stations are kind of propaganda. I think this is Channel 4. It's a British public broadcast. It's a British. It's like a BBC. It's like the BBC. This isn't British. Yeah, it's a British Channel 4. So they called out. They do all kinds of like kind of propaganda, like, and even do stuff but sometimes they call out. They don't. They call out Israel sometimes too. Sometimes they don't actually, but yeah, they usually do propaganda for the West. Anyways, folks, this is my further update on the president's death. President of Iran died in a helicopter crash on Sunday, folks. Sunday afternoon or morning. Folks, that's it for this video.